Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. So tonight I want to give you my 10 least favorite albums. Couple qualifying conditions to get on this list. One, it has to be from an artist that I at least don't mind, even if I'm not necessarily like an active fan of this particular band or artist, as long as they have music that I actually do like at some point in their career, they would qualify for this list. I just don't think it'd be fair to come on here and be like, oh yeah, my least favorite albums are from all these artists that I don't like at all. So that would be, I think that'd be kind of cheating. So these are my 10 least favorite albums from bands or artists that I at least don't mind. So this is no particular order, but first up, I'm going to start with the Dave Matthews Band and their 6th studio album, Stand Up. Now, I do like some Dave Matthews Band. I don't consider myself to be like a fan or anything. Their first couple albums, I think, had a lot of good stuff on it. And even throughout their career, I kind of think they have a couple good songs here and there. And a couple years ago, I found myself listening through their catalog just for something different while I was at work, to kind of get my mind to focus on something different other than the kind of repetitive task that I was working on. And I got to Stand Up, and oh my gosh, it was terrible. I thought Everyday and Busted Stuff was a pretty significant step down from the first three. But Stand Up was basically unlistenable. Dream Girl felt like it was, I don't know, made up on the spot or something. The title track, Stand Up, is probably the worst song Dave Matthews has ever done. It's not listenable. It's just not good at all. The only song on the album that's kind of okay is American Baby. I don't love that one either, though, so it's just easily one of the worst albums I've ever tried to listen to in my life. Stand Up from the Dave Matthews Band is definitely one of my least favorite albums. Next up, I'm going to go with, and I love this artist, Joe Perry. I loved his work with the Joe Perry Project back in the early 80s. I liked all three of those albums. His 2005 solo album, I thought had some really good stuff on it. Have a Guitar Will Travel, I did like quite a bit. But when he released his 6th studio album, his 6th solo album in 2018, I believe it was, Switzerland Manifesto, I was really excited for it. And when I listened to it, it was just horrible. And I hate to say that about Joe, because I love Joe Perry, but it just didn't work. Joe's a guy, I like it when Joe sings in the Joe Perry Project, but his 2005 album, I think, showed that he should work with another singer and split vocals. Because I don't think he can really do a whole album. So he did work with some other vocalists on this one. I think he worked with multiple. I'm not even sure if anybody sang multiple songs. I don't remember. But the vocals were just not something that really meshes well with Joe Perry. It just felt really, really awkward. Joe's guitar playing felt really, I don't know, I don't want to say out of character, or just really raw, but not necessarily in like a good way. It was kind of an obnoxious sounding. The production, I don't know what was going on, but this just was a complete dud of a project to me. And I hate to say that about Joe, but Switzerland Manifesto is just one of those albums to me that there's nothing redeeming on it. Now, he released a Mark II version of this last year, and it is a little bit better. There's a couple of different songs on it. There's a song called Quake that's actually sung by Gary Cherone. It's not bad. It's not anywhere near my favorite Joe Perry song, but it's not bad. That song alone makes it better than the Mark I version, but I think overall the Mark II is a little bit better, but Mark I is an album to me that just doesn't have any redeeming qualities to it. So Switzerland Manifesto from Joe Perry, the second album on my list here. Number 3, we're going to kind of stick in the Joe Perry family here with Aerosmith's Music from Another Dimension, their 15th and most recent studio album. The hype for this one was that it was going to be a return to their 70s sound, and it was really anything but. This one sounds like a more worn out version of Get a Grip or Nine Lives. It's way too long, 15 tracks, and just not many of them are very good. I do kind of like Out Go the Lights. I think that one's a cool track with a pretty nice jam at the end of it. Legendary Child's okay. I don't mind What Could Have Been Love, actually. It's one of my more favorites on the album. Past that, though, I mean, Street Jesus is okay. I don't think there's much here. I Love Three Times has a cool lick from Joe Perry and Brad Redford, but the song seemingly doesn't go anywhere. Oh Yeah is one of the most uninspired songs I've ever heard. Beautiful is not very good. Tell Me, Can't Stop Loving You, Love Her a Lot was like the second single on here, and I didn't like it then. I still don't like it. I cringed every time that song would get played on the radio. And then anything after Love Her a Lot on the album is just not memorable to me. Yeah, it's a 15-track album, and there's like 3 songs on here that I ever need to hear again. And even at that, they're not songs I go to very often. So Music from Another Dimension from Aerosmith, another one of my least favorites. All right, number 4, I'm going to go with Ghost of Download from Blondie. The second half of Blondie's career after they reunited is very spotty. I like Maria off of No Exit, but I really don't like the rest of that album. Curse of Blondie was not that good. I did actually kind of like Panic at Girls, and I do like Pollinator. But Ghost of Download is really bad, in my opinion. It's another album to me that doesn't have anything redeeming on it. I think Debbie Harry never sounded more like an old grandma than she does on this one here. Like, even Pollinator, she sounds a little bit more lively, I guess. This one, to me, they're trying to do like a more modern, computeristic kind of a sound, and it's just not appealing to me at all. I don't think there's any songs on here that even come close to being something that I would be interested in hearing again. Sugar on the Side is not very good. And there's a song on here called I Screwed Up, which is really bad. Possibly the worst Blondie song, in my opinion. So another album to me that just doesn't have any memorable moments to it. It's nothing I ever want to go back to. And I hate to say that for Blondie, because I love Blondie, love Debbie Harry, but not this one. Sorry. Number 6. Gene Simmons solo album from 1978. As I was browsing my shelf trying to think of albums that I would consider like my 10 least favorite in my collection, or at least of bands that I like, this one really didn't come across my mind. But as I was going through my CD collection, I'm thinking, you know what, this probably is one of my least favorites that I own. So that's why I'm including it on this list. I love See You Tonight. I love that song. That's definitely the big redeeming quality on this one. I do like Radioactive. Not my favorite song in the grand scheme of things, but I do like it. Past that, you got Mr. Make Believe's alright, Man of a Thousand Faces alright. I do like See You in Your Dreams. I like it better on Rock and Roll Over, though. The rest of this album, to me, though, is just a swing and a miss. Burn Up with Fever, cool riff, but the rest of the song, Then you just got a bunch of songs right in the middle that I don't care for, like Tunnel of Love, True Confession, Living in Sin, Always Near You. And of course the Disney cover at the end, which I can appreciate why Gene put it on here, but it still doesn't mean I enjoy listening to it. So Gene Simmons solo album from 1978, definitely my least favorite solo album, definitely my least favorite Kiss album, and one of my 10 least favorite albums from bands or artists that I like. I also probably could have included his second solo album, Asshole, in this, but I have not listened to that album in about 20 years. A buddy of mine got it when it was new. I listened to it then. I thought it was god-awful, and I've never listened to it since. So, but I'm not going to include it because I've not any time in the past 2 decades given it another chance. But Gene Simmons' 78 solo album is going to be on my list. Number 7, is that where we're at? 1, 2, 3. I think I screwed up. I think we're at number 6 now. Oh well. Whatever number we're at. Van Halen 3. Of course, I love the Mighty Van Halen. One of my favorite bands of all time. David Lee Roth era. Pretty much picture perfect. Sammy Hagar era. Very good. Get to this point in the band. And maybe they were just due for a dud, but they team up with Gary Cherone from Extreme. He's a great vocalist. He's a great singer. I like Gary a lot. I don't think this album is his fault, but they're just not gelling at this point. You got some really, really bad songs on here, man. Like Josephina and How Many Say I. These are just songs I don't know what they were going for. It's just they're not that good. Other tracks on here I can kind of see where they were going, but they just missed the mark a little bit. Like One I Want, Fire in the Hole, Ballad of Bullet even. I do think Without You's the best song on here. The production is really murky. It doesn't sound very good. Gary Cherone's vocals are really muddy as well. I feel almost like Gary's trying to sound like Sammy Hagar on here, which I don't know why, because Gary's got an awesome voice of his own. I think he's got his own personality in Extreme, so I don't think he really needs to try to sound like Sammy. But I don't know. To me, he always kind of comes across like he's trying to sound like Hagar. And I was thinking of this analogy too a few days ago. Like, I'm a big racing fan, like NHRA drag racing or NASCAR even. And I was thinking about Van Halen and the singers that they've had. And I had this analogy in my mind that, like, Eddie Van Halen and Alex and Mike Anthony, to a point, they're really good. They're a really good crew. Eddie Van Halen is a phenomenal crew chief. Alex Van Halen, Mike Anthony, they can get you a really fast car, but you still need the driver to win the race. And that's kind of how I feel about the singers. David Lee Roth was the right driver at the time to go and win that race. And then Sammy Hagar comes in, and he was able to go win the race. And then Gary Cherone comes in, and they just weren't gelling with him. Maybe they didn't have enough time with him. I don't know. But he just wasn't the right fit. So he wasn't really able to drive the car as well. And, of course, at this point, I think Eddie Van Halen kind of wanted to try to be the driver himself, and it just didn't quite work out. So, yeah, Van Halen 3... definitely a swing and a miss. I hate to say it because I love Van Halen, but this is without a doubt one of my least favorite albums in my collection. Alright, number 7. I think we're back on track here. I'm going to go Shadow Life from Dokken. This is another one that just doesn't have anything redeeming on it. I picked this one up last year when I was starting to want to collect all of the Dokken albums, thinking that there would at least be something on here that would catch my ear, and there really isn't. I often hear that, like, Puppets on a String is like the best song here, and I don't really even like that one. But there's nothing on here that ever made me want to go back to this. And it's a shame, because I think every other Dokken album is actually quite good, especially the two around this. Dysfunctional came before it, and Erase the Slate that came after it are both phenomenal. But this one, just not very good. So Shadow Life, definitely one of my least favorite in my collection. Number 8, and I hate to say this about this band because I absolutely love the Goo Goo Dolls, but I'm going to go with Miracle Pill from the Goo Goo Dolls. They really started heading in a much popular direction around 2013. Though the Goo Goo Dolls, granted, they've always been kind of a pop rock band since they shredded their punk influence from the 80s. But come 2013, I really felt like they were starting to shed any rock left in their sound. And by the time we get to Miracle Pill in 2019, there is really hardly any remnants of them ever being a rock band. This is straight up pop, and it's not even good pop. I think the first 2 tracks, Indestructible and Fearless, sound like the most generic of contemporary Christian songs that you could possibly imagine. Miracle Pill has that really irritating dun 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 like the whole way through the song, which is a shame, because I always felt that if you would have thrown like some Let Love In style acoustic guitar behind that song, it would actually be a decent Goo Goo Dolls song. What was the song that came after the track 4 on the album? I'm drawing a blank on the title. It was like the second single too. That one's kind of irritating as well. I don't like Lost at all. But this album does have a few redeeming qualities. I think Johnny Resnick and Robbie Takak are... I love them as songwriters that much, where even where they're completely missing the mark, they're still going to give me a couple tracks I like. I like Lights, I like Autumn Leaves, and I like Life's a Message. But overall, the rest of the album to me is just not that good, unfortunately. So Miracle Pill from the Goo Goo Dolls is going to be my number 8. Alright, we're going to close this thing out with 2 more albums. I'm not necessarily a fan of either of these artists, but they both have had, or they've both made music in the past that I've enjoyed. They do have a couple albums that I do like, but unfortunately for them, they've also released some of the worst albums I think I've ever heard. And we're going to go with, call it a guilty pleasure, but I do like a little Avril Lavigne, especially her first couple of albums. I quite enjoyed Let It Go and Under My Skin. I think both albums were very good. She started changing a little bit on her third album, The Best Damn Thing, but there was a couple songs on that one that I actually really do enjoy, even though at the time I thought Girlfriend was like the worst thing that ever happened. But unfortunately, in retrospect, Avril Lavigne has gotten so bad that Girlfriend actually doesn't look like that bad of a song now. But her fourth album I didn't really care for, and her fifth album, her self-titled, is dreadful. The first two singles, Rock and Roll, which is not rock and roll, so it's kind of misleading there. But that and Here's the Never Growing Old. When I listened to those two songs, my thought was like, okay, the Avril Lavigne that I liked on like those first two albums, like the pop punk princess, she's gone. This is just completely and totally different. And then you get to a song later on the album called Hello Kitty, which may in fact be one of the worst songs ever to disgrace humanity. It is an absolutely dreadful piece of music. I'm sorry, Avril, but her self-titled album is not good. And she's put a couple albums out since then, and her last one from a couple years ago, I actually didn't think was that bad. I didn't love it. It wasn't something that I like jammed to, but I did check it out just out of curiosity, and it wasn't bad. I think it was definitely her best album since 2007. But her self-titled from 2013 is horrible. Last but not least, we're gonna go with a little Nickelback. I don't consider myself a Nickelback fan, but I don't hate Nickelback either. I like the album Silver Side Up. I think their next couple of albums had some good songs on them, though there were also some crappy songs on them. But by the time you get to 2014 and No Fixed Address, this album is really, really bad. And there's two songs on it that I actually do like. It's the first song, which is Million Miles an Hour, is pretty cool. And I do kind of like What Are You Waiting For? It's kind of a, I don't know if I want to call it a ballad, but it's kind of a more laid back track. Kind of dig it though. But Edge of a Revolution is like they're trying to be like really politically active and in your face, and it doesn't work. And there's a song on there called She Keeps Me Up, which is really embarrassing. It is probably, and this is saying something too, it might be the worst Nickelback song of all time. And that's saying something, because they've got a lot of contenders for that title. But She Keeps Me Up is really embarrassing. It's awful. And then you just go down the stretch. I think there's a song they did with like Flo Rida or somebody. I could have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure they had like a rapper or somebody in one of those tracks down the stretch on the album. But it's just a big swing and a miss. No Fixed Address is, again, not good, unfortunately. So there you have it. My 10 least favorite albums from bands that I at least don't mind. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below some of your least favorite albums of all time. And I plan on doing a video or a couple videos maybe on my top 25 favorite albums of all time. That should be a lot more fun to talk about. So I'm still kind of working and tweaking that list a little bit. So at some point I will be doing something on my favorite albums of all time. So I guess I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I guess I'll catch you next video. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. See y'all next time.